Who has the toughest schedule in college football coming into the 2026 season? My friends, that's what we're looking at today. I'm going to pull up 5 teams, 5 schedules. We're going to go through each of them. No particular order here. At the end of this video, I'll tell you who I think has the toughest schedule, but I want to preface before we dive in, okay? This is based off of preseason rankings. We could get to week 3 or week 4 and look at a team like Texas, who we're going to start with here, and the tail end of their schedule might not be as tough then as it is now. This is based off of preseason rankings, so very volatile, can change in the snap of a finger. By week 2, this could be blown up. So take that with a grain of salt. Let's start with Texas. Let's dive into the Longhorns' schedule here. Week 1 against Texas State. Not the easiest game they could have scheduled. September 5th, it's a home game. Texas State, I want to say it was either last year or 2 years ago, took ASU on at home. They were at Texas State. I think it was like a Thursday night or Friday night primetime game on ESPN, dramatic ending. It was a competitive football game. So curious to see how they'll compete. Of course, I think Texas will win that game, but we'll get there when we get there. Week 2, Ohio State, almost unequivocally, I think will be the number 1 team in the country when the AP poll does release, and I do think they will still be number 1 coming into this game. This is a tough game for Texas. They do get them at home this year. That's the big difference. After the Ohio State game, they then get UTSA. So a chance to be 3-0, a chance to realistically be 2-1. We'll see how that goes. Not a lot of rest after that. Then they take on Tennessee on the road. You know Tennessee is going to be amped up. That's really going to be Tennessee's first true, I would argue, true test of the year at that point. Texas coming into town. They then get a bye week. Following that bye week, they will play Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. We know how that game goes. Oklahoma, obviously going to be a good team this year. They will be ranked. That's Tennessee likely to be ranked as well. Maybe, maybe not. Then they take Florida on at home. We'll see what Summerall and the Gators look like. Not certain, but again, not the easiest game in the world. Ole Miss at home, another interesting one. Then Mississippi State at home. 2 interesting ones there. Okay, Jeff Lebby and the Bulldogs have gotten a lot better. I think Pete Golden and the Rebels are going to be just as good this year as they were last year. I really, really stand by that. So tough game there. Then they traveled to Missouri against Eli Drinkwitz. Not a pushover either. Missouri could very well be ranked at that point in time of the year. LSU on the road. That's going to be a monster mashup. We'll see. I said mashup, monster match up, rather. We'll see what this LSU team looks like by this point in time in the season. To me, it feels like with LSU, there's just no in between. They're either sitting at like 1 loss at this point and they're in the top 10, or they have 4 losses already and it just feels like the season's half off the rails. So curious to see how that goes. Arkansas at home is probably the easiest game they've had in this stretch since Tennessee. And then they have A&M on the road to end the season. So brutal schedule for Texas. Look, I mean, as it stands right now, 8 ranked teams, 8 preseason top 25 teams. Now, again, there's not an AP preseason poll, so that's based off of a couple of different polls that are out there and FPI rankings and things along those lines. But I would suspect there would at least be 7 or 8 teams that are going to be ranked in the preseason when you look at Texas's schedule. So not easy at all. Let's take a look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's the next team I wanted to go over. UTEP week 1, they should win that. At Michigan week 2 in the Big House, probably going to be a night game. Again, last year we had this weird situation where week 2 there wasn't a ton of big games. This was the premier game. I think it's going to be the same thing this year, but obviously in Ann Arbor as opposed to Norman, Oklahoma. That's a tough one. New Mexico at home, they should win that one. Then you go at Georgia. Not easy at all. You turn around after that, you get your bye week. Then you play Texas and the Red River Shootout. Then you have Kentucky at home, winnable game. We'll see what Kentucky looks like rebuild time. Mississippi State on the road. Again, this is a program that's growing and getting better under Jeff Lebby. Not a pushover. South Carolina at home. You just never know what you're going to get out of Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. I think they're a good football team. You have to go to the Swamp after that. Tough place to play. You have Ole Miss and A&M back-to-back, both at home. But again, that could be back-to-back ranked games at the tail end of your season. Then you travel to Missouri, last game of the year. Trap game, maybe not. Who knows? Missouri could be in a really good spot at that point in time in the season. You're coming off playing at Florida, Ole Miss, and A&M at home. You could realistically have 3 straight ranked games going into that Missouri one, and who knows where they'll be. So another brutal schedule there for the Sooners. Let's talk about Ohio State. We're going to switch over to the Big Ten here. Okay, Ohio State, also a really tough schedule. Ball State, week 1, win. At Texas, week 2. You beat them last year at home in a very defensive-oriented game. Now this year, with a lot of pieces gone on your defense, and Arch Manning with more experience. Now, obviously, you have Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith more experience. We could talk about that game forever. I don't want to get too stuck into it. We'll obviously preview that as the season gets closer, but really tough game. You got Kent State at home. You should win that. Illinois at home. Now, I'm not saying Illinois is going to win, but this is no longer one of those games you kind of yawn and just skip right past. All right, Illinois with Brett Bielema has gotten a lot more competitive. They've been more entertaining to watch, and I think each year that team's going to continue to be better. Iowa, there's a lot of hype around Iowa. This game is at Iowa, which helps, obviously. If they can find any kind of identity on offense, consistent identity, I think that could be an interesting game. Then you play Maryland at home, at Indiana. We'll see what the Hoosiers look like. Again, not an easy road game. Those are two really tough environments to go play on the road. Then you get your bye at USC. No idea what USC is going to look like at that point in time in the season, but again, not an easy game. Could be a world that is a ranked team. You get Oregon at home, which will likely be a big-time matchup. Northwestern at home, they should roll. At Nebraska, coin toss. Not really sure what the Huskers are going to look like given that late into the season being the case for that matchup, but we'll see as time goes. And then the game against Michigan, this time you get them at home. Not an easy schedule. As it stands right now, friends, 6 top 25 teams on that schedule. So I think that this is one of the tougher schedules in the Big Ten. Now, one of my honorable mentions was Oregon. Oregon and USC both have fairly tough schedules also, but I think Ohio State having that Texas game in there, especially considering the weight of it being on the road this year, catapults them into a realm of being one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedule in the Big Ten, I would argue. Let's go over to our next Big Ten team. We got Michigan, okay? The Wolverines don't have the easiest schedule in the world either. You get Western Michigan on the road, similar to your real good friends over in Ann Arbor, or excuse me, in Columbus. Goodness grief. You are in Ann Arbor. Your friends over in Columbus, Ohio State obviously takes on SEC Texas week 2. You take on SEC Oklahoma week 2. Major props given the conference schedules these teams have to play as well. You play Oklahoma. Again, you get them at home this time if you're Michigan, whereas Ohio State's going on the road. So flip-flop there. We'll see what that game holds. It's going to be a fun one. Obviously, the Big House will be rocking Kyle Whittingham's first true test as head coach. So curious to see how that game goes. Like I had mentioned earlier when we looked at Oklahoma's schedule, I think that this one's probably going to be the primetime premier game in week 2, but time will tell on that. UTEP should win that. Then you got Iowa at home, also another tough game. You got Minnesota on the road. Never know what PJ Fleck and the Gophers are going to do or look like. You got Penn State at home. Going to be a fun game between two coaches that are trying to rebuild these programs into what they want them and get them to championship level football. Indiana at home. That's a really tough stretch. Iowa, Minnesota, Penn State, Indiana. That is not easy. Then you go at Rutgers. Should be a winnable football game, but again, Shiano's done really good things over there, so we'll see. Michigan State, curious to see what they look like this year. You go at Oregon, then UCLA at home, then at Ohio State to end the year. So really, really tough schedule for Kyle Whittingham. No time to slouch. It's hit the ground running, man. So we'll see what Michigan can do there. Last but not least, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has an extremely tough schedule. Now, being in the SEC, of course, oftentimes we're going to hear, oh, it's always tough. And yes, that's not entirely false. However, I do think that the tougher SEC schedules are the teams that are going out and playing outside of their conference tough games as well. Louisville, week 1. I'm really excited for that football game. I think Jeff Brom and Louisville are going to be a competitive team this year, and I think Pete Golden's going to have Ole Miss playing at a similar level to what they played at last year. You then take on Charlotte at home. You have LSU at home in week 3. I don't really need to say much about that game. It's a tough game, don't get me wrong, but a huge game. There's a world where both of those teams could come in off 2 big wins. If you beat Louisville as Ole Miss, and if LSU is to beat Clemson early in the season, we could have a massive, massive game with a lot of confidence built behind that too. They both could come in on a loss. We'll see. Obviously, a lot left to be determined. You then got to take Florida on the road in the very next week. If you win that game, just think how amped up the Swamp's going to be with a ranked Ole Miss coming into town. You got Vanderbilt on the road after that, Obviously, Vanderbilt's getting a lot better with Clark Lee. Missouri at home. We'll see what Missouri looks like. Texas on the road. Really, really tough football game. Auburn at home. Georgia at home. Oklahoma on the road. I believe that's Wofford. I could be wrong. I want to say that's Wofford at home, and then Mississippi State at home. So, yeah, a lot of tough schedules across the country. And again, some of my honorable mentions, LSU was a tough schedule in there. Clemson in the first week. A&M, another tough schedule. But look, I think Texas, as of right now, has the toughest schedule in college football. I really do. You talk about playing the number one team in the country early in the year. You go at Tennessee. I mean, this stretch where you go at Tennessee, then you get your bye. Then you go Oklahoma, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, LSU, Arkansas, A&M. Now, I understand there's a couple. Is that really a tough game in there? You could argue, is Mississippi State really a tough game? Is Arkansas really a tough game? I still just think the way this schedule's laid out, Texas State week 1 is not the easiest pushover in the world. I think that Texas has the toughest schedule in college football. Again, as it stands right now, 8 teams that will likely be ranked coming into the preseason. Now, not entirely sure. However, I think this could be debated and argued plentiful. I'm not standing on the hill dying that Texas has the toughest schedule for the rest of my life. I think people could definitely talk me into something else. But again, I think we have a situation here when you look at any 5 of these schedules. And like I said, even LSU, A&M, USC, Oregon, some of these other teams that I mentioned, really just the top 10 toughest schedules, so to speak, in college football, I think could be argued as one tougher than the other. A lot of it's going to change as the season progresses, how teams compete. If the back end of your schedule is doing really good in their own path, that of course makes your schedule tougher. So it's going to switch from week to week. But that's all I got, friends. I appreciate you for tuning in. I am very excited. I love the fact that a lot of these tough schedules, some of the biggest games on them are early in the season. So we're really going to find out who's the real deal pretty early on this year. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. I cannot wait to see you in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon. Thank you.